I'm going to tell you the story about how a small desire and idea can make a community, a neighborhood. I'm living in Tehran. It's the capital of Iran. It's a very dense city, but it has a very nice environment and geographies and landscape around itself. Actually, we have different architectural answers to these contexts around Tehran. We had it. Tehran is full of apartments. Uh, Before, people went out for nature and entertainment, but right now people are going out of Tehran for being survived from the traffic, pollution, and high expenses. And recently, they wanted to be more free. Tehran is like a monster. It eats all of the landscapes and architectural culture around itself through huge residential complexes and the small towns. Let's focus on the small town. Developer buy a huge land and make a wall around it, which is for safety. And they divide it into smaller properties. Each property has another wall around itself, which is useless. And it has a car access, just a mobility access, nothing more. There is no community inside. The story starts from when a couple of my friends asked me to buy a land when they want to go out of the Tehran to buy a land next to them. It was a huge land with 100 pieces, so we bought 3 pieces next to each other. And actually, it was an existing sample of villa, and we had to repeat it. But I didn't want to live in this villa. And I didn't want to have a wall around my villa. I want to have a community of my friends. So I suggest them to let me to design your villas. And I told the owner of the whole land, let me to design at least a small phase of your town. So the main strategy for me was to get distance from the building stuff in Tehran and get distance from the pollution, the crowd. I want to go out of Tehran to feel the landscape and the nature. And I want to have the community of my friend, which is completely missing in Tehran. In the architecture scale, I don't want to have a building. And I want to have something made of landscape color and made of the landscape material. That area is famous with its clay pots. We call that pots kuze. You can find kuze everywhere in all of the Iranian houses as a flower vase. Sometimes I imagine myself to scale down and live between them. This is a future of our routine development, but my desire was more respectful to the nature and the landscape. It's like to living in a scaled down kuze town. So we break the routine walls and make them layers and let them to open the borders to communicate in the villa scale and with the neighbors, and also to organize the whole neighborhood and the whole site. Now I can say we have a neighborhood. A single villa function has been divided in different packs, in different scale and different levels, to communicate in the villa scale and to communicate in the neighborhood scale. And actually, we change and transfer the central car access to a main plaza. We fade the borders in 2 levels, between 2 villas and between each villa and the main plaza. Here, there is no solid walls, and there is a thickness of life. There is a layer of spaces and lives. This neighborhood has 2 types of villa. The small one, which has one residential pack, and the bigger one has one additional for the guests and for the bigger families. It's like our traditional Iranian houses with a courtyard in between. The scenario of the circulation of each villa starts from the main plaza. There is a car park and some entrance platforms, which is shared with the main plaza. After you passing the pool, you will reach to the residential pack and residential kuze, which is in two levels. The top level is the kitchen and living room, and underneath is the bedrooms. And it has a very nice view to the pool. From inside, you can feel the materiality of outside and the whole landscape. And also, from inside, you can feel the dynamic shape and the dynamic form of the kuze. There is a gap between the bedrooms and the pool, and so it brings the light. This gap is like a small yard with the brick walls, which comes inside to divide the space and organize the internal space as well. There is no rigid walls between the villas, and actually the volume of the neighbor villa acts as a flower vase for our villa, and it seems like it's yours, and you can enjoy the greenery. Actually, each villa has a gaming pack which is shared between two villas, and it can work completely private for each villa. This is a part of our culture because we always share some spaces to meet our neighbors. The end of the scenario of the circulation ends to the roof, which is a outdoor gathering area. With a very simple geometry and architectural elements, and orientation, it will give us a sense of privacy and safety. The form is not important at all. What is important is more about the landscape. It's all about the landscape. I believe that in a neighborhood, all of the members and the architectural elements needs to have a dialogue to each other. And this complex has a stages, frame, and some spaces that you can see your neighbors, and you can have a communication with your neighbor. And also, when you see the whole complex, it seems that the whole complex is yours. The existing situation didn't respond to the context, but what we have is a habitable landscape. Out of the town, there's an exclusive construction development, but inside is my desire for my neighbors. It's like a living between the Kuze field, and that's why we call it the Kuze Valley. The story hasn't been finished yet because the owner of the whole land pre-sell all of them, and they offer me to design the whole 100 villas. We designed it in 4 types, and this time we sacrificed some land in the middle of the town for the kindergarten, some small schools, for Medicare, for sports, a central hub for communication. And I can say it's a small village now. In another stage, we'll start to communicate and negotiate with our neighbor's town to say, let's open the walls for us and at least join the roads. We don't have a road, we have a plazas. And in future, definitely, our plaza make your road another plaza. And let's have a communication. So I guess it was a nice story, but I want to prove it in another stage. I went to the site and assume it, as this is my table, I make a huge physical model of my site, of my villa. And I said, okay, this is not a design, this is not a construction process. This is a part of my design process. And after I started construction for myself and the huge mock-up of my villa, the neighbors start to have another one and the other. And every month, one villa start the construction. Actually, I can say this is a habitable construction process. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Actually, I feel very close to this process because I've been doing something very similar at home. And
it sort of questions the role of the architect. And for a long time, I think a lot of us have thought that having clients and providing solutions was the way to go. But in certain places in the world, I think you have to be you have to test things yourselves. And in the process, not only are you testing the building, but you're testing something that is more important, I think, is the community. How do you create a community? How do you make people live together, like beyond the, the, the built environment? And I would like to maybe hear your thoughts on this. You know, how do you? I mean, I can already see how you can start convincing neighbors, but how in a very operational way? How do you? I mean, are you setting up a set of rules? Do you have special coding for the plots that you're in charge of?
Yes. Actually, when we start this community, I guess it just for my context, because this is something that's completely missing in Iran and in our cities. And I said, what is very important is the people wants to be more free, to don't have a scarf, to go into the pool, and this is missing in our cities. And the people come out. When we design this, and we set the rules. Okay, we don't need to have a walls, and this is it. And the customers come to us, and they visit the renders first. And they said, this is not going to happen. And when they come to the site and say, okay, what is this? This is not a building, but we can live in it. And they like it. And they like it because it's missing part of our community and our culture and society. I guess this complex just has an answer to our society and provides something which is missing in our cities. That's it. And definitely we set some rules for them, the greenery and the materiality, everything has a rule. And if they want to buy a land, they need to sign it.
This is a really wonderful, impressive scheme, and I think that what's so powerful is that it goes beyond the traditions in Iran that you're seeking to kind of capture through something modern. I mean, one of the problems in the world with suburban development, certainly in the States where I'm from, is walling off and creating your own, little place, thinking that that's the dream, when really traditional ways of living where you see and are among other people is so much stronger. I choose to live in a house from 1860 in Philadelphia. I can see my neighbors from all the windows and I can hear them, and you feel like you're part of a community. What I really admire is that you've captured that tradition in a way without nostalgia. Mm-hmm. It's not copying the past. It's not even borrowing the forms. It's more of a sensibility about place and about scale and about joining together. And I think it's really admirable and has a paradigmatic quality that goes well beyond the region here and even beyond the clay vessels as the example. So thank you.
You're welcome. Can I say something? Okay. For me, that I prove to that my society and my people, and as you said, I'm trying to convince people in Iran that this is your tradition. You are this, not what you are living right now. And we need to remind it again and again. And I believe the architecture and living together and our community is something that we can remind it. Okay, because right now we miss it because of the rules in our country. But when people come inside, they say, okay, we're safe. We don't want to kill each other. We don't want to, we love each other. And it's a level of coexistences that we can live to each other, and then we can go in sharing areas to have the lunch together, which is completely, it was a part of our traditions, which is missing now.
it fights the isolation of contemporary times. I mean, earlier today we had a project dealing with mental health issues in Australia, and post-pandemic, the sense of isolation that people feel, and this is exactly against that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
A fantastic presentation, really brought the thing to life. And I think what you've just said in some ways addresses Isa's question about the role of an architect. And this goes in many ways beyond the role of an architect, and it's quite inspiring. I just wanted some very practical things to understand, so I wasn't quite sure if I followed you. So what started as the 3 plots, and you and your 2 friends, then the developer has now agreed to do this for the whole of the first plot and look at rolling it out to the rest of the plots.
We start with the 3 plots
Yep.
for my friends and me, and I already designed a one phase as it's here, one phase, and then they pre-sell this, the owner of the whole land.
So all of those plots in the first phase have already been sold and will get built?
All of them.
Wow.
Just this part. But we have this in my mind, but these are different types.
Yeah.
And after they pre-sell this one, they offer me to design the whole land. That was in this stage we have the central hub and the central communication hub for the whole. It is not just a residential.
No, I appreciate that. And you're now adding in other elements like schools and so on. So the one thing I wasn't sure about was you talk about getting out of the city and wanting to be a part of the landscape and being within the landscape. The only thing that I couldn't quite tell from the sequence of the actual buildings is when you're within those living spaces, can you see past the neighbour's house and see the landscape beyond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a valley.
Yeah.
It's a valley.
So and they're staggered so that they're slightly, yeah. Okay.
And actually, I show in one of the pictures, it was here from one of our colonies. You can see the landscape, but this complex is work as when you see some people are communicating to each other, it's enjoyable. And it's very nice that for me, it's very enjoyable that you see that happy community. I think, at least at night, it's more beautiful than the landscape, dark landscape around.
Very good.
I've got two small questions. Could you talk a little bit about what's the material of the walls? And if I got this correct, it seems to me in the first phase that the pool is elevated.
Yes.
But if that's, let's say, phase number 2, you brought the pool down. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, it wasn't the
please?
pool. It was a mistake by my office. They drew it wrong. It's a solid over there. The pool is 5 meters on top, and because of but it has different level. It's completely follow the topography. It's completely follow the topography. And as you said no, tell me, ask me. Okay, thank you. The role of architecture is very important here. It was completely a new process for me. But I'm telling everyone that if the people from outside found their architects is involving to living with them, it's really trustable. This is just advice. Say, okay, I feel that.
Thank you.
Thank you.